HOA sent me a letter claiming 12 feet of my own backyard belonged to common area. They put up stakes. They threatened a fine of $200 a day. They told me I had 30 days to remove my fence or they'd remove it for me. What they didn't know is that I had one document sitting in a drawer that would end this entire fight in under 5 minutes. Stick around, because what happened when I handed that paper to the HOA board president is something you have to see to believe. This is the HOA fallout, and this is the backyard battle that never should have happened. It started with a letter. Not a phone call, not a knock on the door, a certified letter sitting in my mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon, stamped with the HOA logo like it meant business. Inside was a notice claiming that a strip of my backyard, roughly 12 feet deep along the rear property line, was actually designated common area, and that my fence, my garden beds, and a shed I'd built 3 summers ago were all unauthorized encroachments that needed to be removed within 30 days. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time, because surely I was misunderstanding something. I had lived in this house for almost 9 years. I had paid property taxes on every inch of that yard. I had planted trees back there with my kids. And now a board made up of 3 of my neighbors was telling me, in formal letter format, that none of it was actually mine. The letter mentioned the community plat map from the original development, claiming it showed a buffer zone the HOA was responsible for maintaining. They cited a clause from the covenants about encroachment on common elements. They even attached a fine schedule, $200 a day, starting on day 31, with no cap mentioned anywhere in the letter. My first instinct was panic, because that's what these letters are designed to create. Panic makes people comply without checking the facts. Panic makes people tear out their own fences instead of asking questions. But after the initial shock wore off, I did something the HOA clearly didn't expect. I went looking for my original property survey. When I bought the house, my closing documents included a full boundary survey, the kind of licensed surveyor stakes out and stamps with their seal. It had been sitting in a folder in my filing cabinet for 9 years, untouched, because why would you need it if nobody's ever questioned your property line? I pulled it out and laid it next to the HOA's claim. The survey showed my legal boundary extending a full 18 feet past where the HOA said the common area began. In other words, the entire strip they were trying to claim wasn't a common area at all. It was inside my deeded property, recorded at the county recorder's office, with a surveyor's stamp and a legal description that matched my deed word for word. I called a real estate attorney just to be sure I wasn't missing something, because I wanted to walk into that HOA meeting with absolute certainty. The attorney confirmed what the survey already showed. The HOA's plat map reference was outdated, drawn from a preliminary development plan that had been revised before the neighborhood was even finished being built. They were enforcing a boundary that legally never existed. So I requested an emergency session with the board. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten to sue, even though I probably could have. I simply placed the certified survey on the table, next to my recorded deed, and asked the board president to explain how a stamped, county-recorded survey could be overridden by an unofficial draft map from a development phase that was scrapped years ago. The room went quiet. The board president flipped through the pages, looked at the surveyor's seal, looked at the matching legal description, and then looked at the HOA's own attorney, who was sitting in the corner saying absolutely nothing. Within a week, I received a formal letter rescinding the original notice. No fine, no further action, no apology either, but I wasn't holding my breath for one. Here's what this whole ordeal taught me, and honestly, what every homeowner in an HOA needs to hear. HOAs operate off internal documents, covenants, plat maps, and meeting notes. But none of those override a recorded property survey and a recorded deed. If a board ever tells you that you're encroaching on a common area, the very first thing you do is pull your original survey. Not the HOA's map, not their interpretation of the covenants. Your survey, your deed, recorded at the county level, stamped by a licensed professional. If you don't have a copy, your county recorder's office almost always has one on file, and most title companies keep records as well. It costs very little to request, and it can save you thousands of dollars in fines, legal fees, and stress. This wasn't really about a strip of grass. It was about a board assuming a homeowner wouldn't push back, wouldn't ask for documentation, wouldn't know their rights. The moment I produced one verified document, the entire threat collapsed. If your HOA has ever sent you a letter that didn't sit right, don't just comply out of fear. Pull your paperwork. Ask for theirs. Compare the two. More often than you'd expect, the HOA is operating off outdated, unofficial, or flat-out incorrect information, and a single recorded survey is enough to shut the whole thing down. If this story sounds familiar, or if your HOA has ever tried something similar, drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and some of the wildest HOA stories on this channel started exactly like this. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next HOA fallout, because trust me, this is far from the craziest one I've covered. And if you want to see how this story ended 6 months later, including what happened at the next annual meeting, check the video linked right here. Subscribe to the HOA Fallout for more real HOA horror stories. Drop your own HOA encroachment story in the comments. Like this video if you believe homeowners deserve to know their rights. Watch the follow-up video linked above for the full aftermath.